Jesianity. If there is a simple, sure, reliable way of approaching the game of golf, no one has yet discovered it. Consistent way of approaching cycling this wonderful vehicle, gospel. James hasn't discovered it yet. If there's a simple, reliable, consistent way of practicing Jesus' way, his life, his truth, James hasn't found it yet. In all three cases, certainly in the second two, James can attest personally to being fairly certain that there is a simple, consistent, reliable way of approaching cycling gospel and practicing gospel, living gospel. And he hasn't found it yet. Near certainly some of this is an adaptive circuit in the brain that entices us forward by convincing us, oh, just keep at it. You can get better. You can find the way. You can find the Holy Grail. Almost certainly there's a circuit like that. And it is somewhat gratifying to follow. Maybe very gratifying to follow. It's why people climb mountains and pick up a blank canvas over after sweating over the prior painting and start the new one. Sometimes people do find the way, a way. So that's one thing. A second thing is maybe the way, in the case of Jesus' way, his truth, his life, is, for Jesus, was not without repeated trials, not without repeated work, not without repeated pain, not without repeated disappointment, not without repeated relearning, and learning again, and learning again, and learning again. Upon reflection, his teachings indicate that. For him, life was not without disappointments, was not without sweating blood, was not without grief, was not without constant prayer and reflection. Prayer and fasting, I think he said to the disciples. But having said that, James is guessing that he's scratching the surface and actually could be very close or infinitely far away from walking the path as well as Jesus did. Finding and walking the path as reliably and consistently as Jesus did. These last 3 or 4 days have been difficult. Maybe too difficult. Maybe they've gone amazingly well. I don't know. There are factors that jump out at James as somewhat responsible. It's been 3 weeks since our last major 2 or 3 day downtime, and we were somewhat proactive in recognizing that this time, that the Fourth Reich is upon us. With the inauguration coming in January, is it? February? And the horrors of that. Third Reich was focused in Europe, and there was an alliance to overthrow it The alliance now is the Fourth Reich. It is the moneyed elite who think humanity is inhumanity, and that the enemy is true humanity. It is the final Reich, and the disastrous confirmed what certainly James has realized. Biden is nothing more than an empty shell puppet, and probably there because what Israel needed was an empty shell puppet that they could manipulate to finalize their spearhead takeover of Middle East resources, exterminating all the indigenous population and destroying everyone anywhere in the world that gets in their way, physically if they can, economically, psychologically, career-wise, if they can. And that fourth horror, where virtually the entire U.S. government apparatus is aggressively complicit because they've been installed because their complicity could be assured, and that's the majority. And some of them have been intimidated, confused, threatened, terrified into compliance. It is important for James not to be blind to the otherwise debilitating reign of evil that his nervous system, his humanity is overloaded by. Hence this log to process, to think through what's going on here. In all this, James suspects he has much to learn. He has much strength to gain, much insight to gain. Important for whatever leadership and educational role he might play as a disciple. Many of the lessons in logs of the last month or so are confirmed. Operating system, whose mission, James? Humanity, James. Spirit, Holy James. New idea this morning, maybe. Almost no time to experiment with it yet. Spend your humanity, James. Check your energy. Do you have humanity to spend? Spend it. I don't know how. Spend it, James. Spend it as best you can. It might be that is a always the right thing to do. Never not the right thing to do. A form of make of the tree the good tree. The good tree bears good fruit. The evil tree cannot bear good fruit. The good tree cannot bear evil fruit.